My name is Emma Wilson, and at 24, I never expected my college graduation day would become the sweetest revenge. Standing beside my sister Lily in our matching caps and gowns should have been simply joyful. But years of unfair treatment had built up to this moment. I still hear their cold words echoing. She deserved it, but you didn't. The memory of that night when my parents decided only my sister was worth investing in still stings. Before I reveal what made my parents' faces turn ghostly pale at our graduation, let me know where you're watching from in the comments and hit that like button if you've ever had to fight twice as hard for something that came easily to someone else. I grew up in a seemingly normal middle-class family in suburban Michigan. Our two-story house with the white picket fence looked perfect from the outside, complete with family photos displaying forced smiles that hid the complicated reality within. My parents, Robert and Diana Wilson, worked stable jobs, Dad as an accountant and Mom as a high school English teacher. We weren't wealthy, but we were comfortable enough that financial struggles weren't supposed to be part of my future. My sister Lily was 2 years younger than me, but somehow always seemed miles ahead in our parents' eyes. With her perfect blonde curls, effortless academic achievements, and natural charm, she embodied everything they valued. From early childhood, the pattern was clear. Lily was the golden child, and I was the afterthought. I can still picture Christmas mornings where Lily would unwrap the latest expensive toys while I received practical items like socks or discount store craft kits. Your sister needs more encouragement with her talents, Mom would explain when I questioned the disparity. Even at 8 years old, I recognized the unfairness, but learned to swallow my disappointment. School events highlighted the difference in their support. For Lily's science fairs, both parents would take the day off work, helping her create elaborate displays. For my art exhibitions, I was lucky if Mom showed up for 15 minutes during her lunch break. Art is just a hobby, Emma. It won't get you anywhere in life, Dad would say dismissively. The only person who seemed to see me was my grandmother Eleanor. During our summer visits to her lake house, she would sit with me for hours while I sketched the water and trees. You have a special way of seeing the world, Emma, she would tell me. Don't let anyone dim your light. Those summers with Grandma Eleanor became my sanctuary. In her small library, I discovered books about successful entrepreneurs and business leaders who had overcome obstacles. I began to develop dreams beyond just surviving my childhood, dreams of proving my worth through achievements my parents couldn't ignore. By high school, I had developed a resilient personality out of necessity. I joined every business-related club and excelled in math and economics, discovering a natural aptitude that surprised even my most supportive teachers. When I won the regional business plan competition as a sophomore, my economics teacher, Mr. Rivera, called my parents personally to tell them how exceptional my work was. That's nice, Mom said after hanging up the phone. Did you remember to help Lily with her history project? She has that big presentation tomorrow. During junior year, I worked after school at a local coffee shop to save money, sensing I would need my own resources in the future. I managed to maintain a 4.0 GPA despite working 20 hours a week. Meanwhile, Lily joined the debate team and instantly became the star, with my parents attending every tournament and celebrating each victory with special dinners. By senior year, both Lily and I were applying to colleges. Despite being 2 years apart, Lily had skipped a grade, putting us in the same graduating class. We both applied to the prestigious Westfield University, known for its excellent business and political science programs. Against all odds, we both got acceptance letters on the same day. I still remember the excitement I felt, hands trembling as I opened that thick envelope. I got in, I announced at dinner, unable to contain my joy. Full acceptance to the business program. My father glanced up briefly from his phone. That's nice, Emma. Minutes later, Lily burst through the front door, waving her own acceptance letter. I got into Westfield's political science program, she shrieked. The transformation in my parents was immediate. Dad jumped up from his chair, Mom rushed to embrace Lily, and suddenly dinner was abandoned for an impromptu celebration complete with champagne for the adults and sparkling cider for us. We always knew you could do it, Mom gushed to Lily, seemingly forgetting I had announced the exact same achievement minutes earlier. The night that changed everything happened 2 weeks later. We were having a family dinner, a rare occasion where everyone was present and phones were temporarily set aside. We need to discuss college plans, Dad announced, folding his hands on the table. His eyes, however, were fixed solely on Lily. "We've been saving for your education since you were born. The Westfield tuition is steep, but we can cover it entirely so you can focus on your studies without worrying about money." Lily beamed with pride while I waited for my turn, assuming they had saved for both of us. The silence stretched uncomfortably until I finally spoke up. "What about my tuition?" I asked quietly. The room temperature seemed to drop several degrees as my parents exchanged uncomfortable glances. "Emma," my father said slowly, "we only have enough for one of you, and Lily has always shown more academic promise. We believe investing in her education will yield better returns." My mother reached across to pat my hand in what she probably thought was a comforting gesture. "You've always been more independent anyway. You can take out loans or maybe consider a community college first." The words that followed burned themselves into my memory. "She deserved it, but you didn't." I stared at them, unable to process the depth of their betrayal. Years of smaller rejections had somehow not prepared me for this ultimate dismissal of my worth. In that moment, the thin threads holding our family together in my mind snapped completely. That night, after the devastating dinner announcement, I locked myself in my bedroom and allowed the tears I'd been holding back to finally fall. The unfairness crushed me. 17 years of trying to earn my parents' approval, culminating in this ultimate rejection. My 4.0 GPA, business competition wins, and acceptance to a prestigious university meant nothing to them. I had never been enough, and apparently, I never would be. The next morning, puffy-eyed and exhausted, I confronted my parents in the kitchen before school. "How could you have saved college money for Lily but not for me?" I asked, my voice breaking despite my attempts to stay composed. Mom sighed as she stirred her coffee. "Emma, it's not that simple. We had to make practical decisions with our limited resources. But I have better grades than Lily," I countered. "I've been working part-time for 2 years while maintaining perfect academics." "How is that not showing dedication?" Dad closed his newspaper with a sharp snap. "Your sister has always been dedicated to academics. You've been too distracted with other activities and that job of yours. Besides, Lily has a clear career path. Your business ideas are risky at best." "You never even asked about my plans," I whispered. "Look," Mom interjected, "we can help you fill out loan applications. Plenty of students finance their own education." The conversation ended there because they had already made their decision. In their minds, I was less deserving, less promising, and therefore less worthy of their investment. That weekend, I drove to my grandmother's house 2 hours away, seeking the only genuine support I knew. As I poured out the whole story, Grandma Eleanor listened without interruption, her weathered hands clasping mine tightly. "My darling girl," she finally said, wiping away my tears. "Sometimes life's most painful moments become our greatest catalyst. Your parents are wrong about you. Deeply, tragically wrong. But you have something they can't recognize. Unbreakable determination." Grandma couldn't offer financial help. Her fixed income barely covered her own expenses. But she gave me something more valuable: unwavering belief in my potential. "Promise me you'll go to Westfield anyway," she said fiercely. "Don't let their limitations become yours." That night, I made my decision. I would attend Westfield alongside Lily, finance my own education, and graduate despite every obstacle. The next morning, I began researching scholarships, grants, work-study programs, and student loans. For weeks, I spent every spare moment completing applications. My guidance counselor, Mrs. Chen, stayed after school to help me navigate the complex financial aid system. "I've rarely seen a student as determined as you," she told me as we submitted my 25th scholarship application. I received several small scholarships, but not enough to cover the substantial Westfield tuition. With a mix of federal loans and private loans co-signed by Grandma Eleanor, I pieced together enough financing for my first year. Next came housing. While Lily would live in the expensive on-campus dormitories paid for by our parents, I found a tiny apartment 45 minutes from campus with 3 roommates I met through a university housing forum. Meanwhile, I applied for every job near campus. 2 weeks before move-in day, I secured a position at a busy coffee shop within walking distance of my cheapest classes, plus weekend shifts at a local bookstore. The contrast between our preparations was stark. My parents took Lily shopping for new clothes, a laptop, and dorm decorations. They helped her pack, arranged for professional movers, and planned an elaborate send-off party with family friends. I packed my belongings in secondhand suitcases and boxes scavenged from grocery stores. The night before I left, Mom awkwardly offered me some of her old twin sheets for my new bed. It was the only acknowledgement that I, too, was starting college. On move-in day, my parents drove Lily to campus in our family SUV packed with her belongings. I followed behind in my decade-old Honda that frequently needed coolant and made concerning noises when I braked. No one had offered to check it before my 2-hour drive to my new life. As we parted ways at the campus entrance, my parents and Lily heading to her premium dorm, me continuing alone to my distant apartment, Mom called out, "Good luck, Emma. I hope this all works out for you." The doubt in her voice only strengthened my resolve. This wouldn't just work out. I would make it triumphant. My new apartment was a shock. Peeling paint, unreliable plumbing, and roommates who were strangers. That first night, alone on my thin mattress with the sounds of traffic and neighbors arguing filtering through the walls, exhaustion overtook me. The enormity of what I was undertaking hit full force, and doubts crept in. Could I really work 30 hours weekly while taking a full course load? Would the constant financial stress crush my academic performance? Just as despair threatened to overwhelm me, my phone chimed with a text from Grandma Eleanor. "Remember, my brave girl, diamonds are only made under pressure. You're already shining." With those words in mind, I dried my tears and created a meticulous schedule, mapping every hour of my upcoming weeks. Sleep would be limited, social life nearly non-existent, but my education and future would not be sacrificed. Freshman year hit me like a hurricane. While most students were adjusting to college academics and enjoying newfound freedom, I was balancing 30 work hours weekly with a full course load of business classes. My typical day started at 5 a.m. with a 2-hour study session before rushing to my opening shift at the coffee shop. After classes, I'd head straight to my second job at the bookstore, often not returning to my apartment until after midnight. Sleep became a luxury I could rarely afford. I learned to do readings during my commute, complete assignments during lunch breaks, and record lectures to listen to while cleaning the coffee machines. Every minute was scheduled, every resource stretched to its limit. The contrast between my life and Lily's couldn't have been more stark. Through occasional text messages and social media posts, I glimpsed her carefree college experience, sorority events, study abroad information sessions, and weekends visiting home for Mom's cooking. Meanwhile, I was calculating if I could afford both textbooks and groceries that month. Despite the grueling schedule, something unexpected happened. My business classes weren't just manageable, I was excelling. Years of practical financial planning and work experience had prepared me in ways my classmates weren't. While they struggled with basic accounting concepts, I was applying these principles in real time to my own complex financial situation. Professor Bennett, my business ethics instructor, stopped me after class one day during the second month. "Ms. Wilson, your analysis of the case study was exceptional, particularly your perspectives on resource allocation and family business dynamics. Your insights show remarkable maturity." For perhaps the first time, my struggles were translating into an academic advantage. My exhaustion was tempered by growing confidence in my capabilities. During this time, I was also blessed with an unexpected friendship that would change everything. My roommate Zoe noticed my punishing schedule and began leaving homemade meals in the refrigerator with my name on them. One night when I came home particularly exhausted, she was waiting up. "You can't keep going like this," she said bluntly, setting a cup of tea before me. "You'll burn out before midterms." When I explained my situation, her expression shifted from concern to indignation on my behalf. "That's beyond unfair," she declared. "From now on, consider me your college family." Zoe became my sanctuary in the storm. She edited my papers when fatigue made my words blur, created flashcards for my exams, and fiercely defended my study time from other roommates' interruptions. When she discovered I was skipping meals to save money, she insisted on cooking enough for both of us, refusing any payment beyond help with her own assignments. "My parents taught me that family takes care of each other," she explained simply, "and sometimes the family we choose matters more than the one we're born into." Midway through sophomore year, disaster struck. The coffee shop reduced everyone's hours due to seasonal slowdowns, cutting my income by nearly 40%. My careful budget collapsed overnight. with rent due and a tuition payment looming, I faced my first major financial crisis. Panic rising, I remembered Ms. Winters from financial aid and made an emergency appointment. After reviewing my situation, she offered both practical advice and unexpected assistance. "Your academic performance qualifies you for an emergency grant," she explained. "And Professor Bennett has recommended you for a research assistant position in the business department. It pays better than the coffee shop and looks more impressive on a resume." The research position became another turning point. Working directly with Professor Bennett, I began assisting with her study on small business resilience during economic downturns. The flexible hours accommodated my class schedule, and the intellectual stimulation was a welcome change from preparing lattes. More importantly, Professor Bennett took a genuine interest in my future. "Have you considered entrepreneurship?" she asked one afternoon as we analyzed survey data. "Your perspective on resource constraint driving innovation is quite sophisticated." The seed of an idea that had been germinating since high school began to take root. Using skills from my marketing and digital media classes, I created a simple online platform offering virtual assistant services to local small businesses. Working late into the night, I built a website and developed service packages tailored to needs I had observed in my research with Professor Bennett. By the beginning of junior year, my small business was generating enough income to allow me to quit the bookstore job. I maintained my research position more for the mentorship than the money. Between the virtual assistant work, research stipend, and loans, I was finally achieving a precarious financial stability. As my business grew, so did my confidence. In business strategy class, I began speaking up more, sharing insights from my real-world entrepreneurial experience. Professors took notice, and classmates began seeking my advice on their projects. The girl who once felt invisible was becoming a respected voice in the department. Meanwhile, Lily and I maintained a cordial but distant relationship. She would occasionally invite me to sorority events or campus activities, which I nearly always declined due to work commitments. We rarely discussed our dramatically different college experiences, maintaining the surface-level conversation that had characterized our relationship since childhood. Our parents called Lily weekly but reached out to me only for major holidays or family emergencies. During one Thanksgiving break when I couldn't afford the trip home, Mom texted, "We miss you at dinner, but we understand you're busy with your projects." The ellipses spoke volumes about how they viewed my choices. Despite their continued dismissal, my academic performance was becoming impossible to ignore. I made the dean's list every semester, received departmental awards, and was invited to present at a regional business conference. Each achievement strengthened my determination to prove my path was just as valid as Lily's, perhaps even more so. By the end of junior year, my virtual assistant business had evolved into a proper digital marketing agency, serving clients across the state. I hired 2 fellow business students as part-time associates, turning theoretical classroom knowledge into practical business growth. The business not only covered my living expenses, but generated enough profit to start repaying some of my smaller loans early. Professor Bennett nominated me for the prestigious Entrepreneurial Excellence Scholarship, which covered my entire senior year tuition. "You've earned this through extraordinary effort," she told me when I received the award. "Your story exemplifies the very entrepreneurial spirit this university was founded upon." For the first time since starting college, I felt the crushing weight of financial insecurity begin to lift. The future I had glimpsed in those books at Grandma Eleanor's house was materializing through my own determined efforts. What I didn't realize was that my success story was becoming quietly famous within the business department. As I focused on surviving and thriving, seeds were being planted that would bloom in a most unexpected way at graduation. Senior year arrived with a momentum I could scarcely have imagined when I first stepped onto Westfield's campus. My digital marketing agency had grown to serve 15 regular clients and employed 4 part-time student workers. The business was featured in a local entrepreneurship magazine, bringing a steady stream of new clients and establishing my professional reputation beyond the university. Meanwhile, my academic performance had positioned me among the top students in the business school. Professor Bennett approached me in October with an unexpected opportunity. "The National Collegiate Business Innovation Competition is accepting entries," she said, sliding a brochure across her desk. "The grand prize includes $50 $0 in business funding and national industry exposure. I think your agency model, specifically targeting rural small businesses, has a genuine shot." With her mentorship, I spent weeks refining my business plan and practicing my pitch. After 3 rounds of increasingly competitive judging, I made it to the final round, scheduled for April, just 1 month before graduation. The morning of our graduation dawned bright and clear, as if nature itself was celebrating with us. I woke early, unable to sleep through the mixture of excitement and nervous anticipation. Today marked not just the completion of my degree, but the vindication of my chosen path. My phone chimed with a text from Lily. "Good morning, graduate. See you at the robing area. So proud to be walking with you today." The simple message reflected how far our relationship had evolved. From distant siblings shaped by parental favoritism, we had found our way to something like genuine friendship. After a quick breakfast, I carefully dressed in the outfit I'd splurged on for this occasion, a new dress beneath my graduation gown, sensible but stylish shoes I could walk in confidently. As I fastened Grandma Eleanor's special stole around my shoulders, embroidered with diamonds are made under pressure, I allowed myself a moment to truly feel the weight of this accomplishment. 4 years ago, my parents had deemed me unworthy of investment. Today, I would graduate not just with honors, but with a thriving business and national recognition. The journey had been brutally difficult, but the woman who emerged was stronger than I could have imagined. The campus buzzed with activity as families in their Sunday best navigated between buildings, consulting maps, and taking photos. At the student assembly area, graduates in black robes clustered like elegant crows, adjusting caps and comparing honors cords. I spotted Lily instantly, her blonde hair visible even from a distance. She rushed over when she saw me, embracing me with unexpected emotion. "Can you believe we made it?" she asked, straightening my cap. "Though I barely scraped by while you conquered the world." Her humility was still new enough to surprise me. "We both made it our own way," I replied diplomatically. The ceremony coordinator began arranging us in alphabetical order, which would place Lily and me close together in the processional. As we found our positions, I noticed Dean Rodriguez approaching with purpose. "Ms. Wilson," she said, pulling me gently aside, "just confirming our arrangement. After the conferring of degrees, the president will announce special recognitions. You'll be called up first for your address." And then she lowered her voice. "We have a few additional acknowledgments planned." When I asked for details, she smiled mysteriously. "Better to let it unfold naturally. Just be prepared for a moment in the spotlight." The graduates began filing into the auditorium to the traditional pomp and circumstance. Through the windows, I caught glimpses of the audience. Thousands of family members and friends filling the massive space with excited chatter and occasional shouts of recognition. As we marched down the center aisle, I scanned the family section and spotted my parents seated in premium positions near the front. Dad wore his navy suit reserved for important client meetings, while Mom had chosen an elaborate floral dress and hat combination that screamed important occasion. Their eyes tracked Lily with obvious pride as she walked just a few people ahead of me. Grandma Eleanor sat beside them, elegant in her simple blue dress, her gaze fixed firmly on me. When our eyes met, she nodded once, a gesture containing all her fierce pride and love. The ceremony proceeded with the expected speeches about future potential and the responsibility of education. I half listened, mentally rehearsing my upcoming address while managing the butterflies in my stomach. Finally, the moment arrived for the conferring of degrees. We rose by departments, crossing the stage to receive our diplomas and shake hands with university officials. When my name was called, I heard Grandma Eleanor's distinctive whistle cutting through the polite applause. Lily, returning to her seat, gave me a thumbs up as we passed each other. After the degrees were conferred, University President Harlow approached the podium again. Before we conclude today's ceremony, we have several special recognitions to present. First, I invite Emma Wilson of the School of Business to deliver this year's student address. As I made my way to the stage, I caught a glimpse of my parents. For the first time that day, they were looking directly at me, confusion evident in their expressions. Clearly, they hadn't expected their less promising daughter to receive this honor. Taking the podium, I drew a deep breath and began. 4 years ago, I arrived at Westfield with nothing but determination and the belief that education should be earned, not given. Today, I stand before you having worked 30 hours weekly while maintaining a full course load, building a successful business that employs fellow students, and graduating with highest honors. I spoke about resilience, about finding strength in adversity, and about redefining success on your own terms. Without directly mentioning my parents, I addressed the pain of being underestimated and the power of proving skeptics wrong. The greatest gift of my Westfield education wasn't found in textbooks or lectures, though. It was discovering that limitations placed upon us by others need not become our own limitations. Each of us has the capacity to transcend expectations and create our own definitions of success. As I concluded my speech to enthusiastic applause, President Harlow returned to the microphone. What happened next would forever change the dynamics of my family. Thank you, Ms. Wilson, for those inspiring words. And now I have the distinct pleasure of announcing several special recognitions that exemplify the excellence we strive for at Westfield. He paused dramatically, glancing down at his notes. First, the faculty of the School of Business has unanimously selected Emma Wilson as this year's valedictorian, graduating with a perfect 4.0 GPA, while simultaneously building a business now valued at over 6 figures. A murmur of appreciation rippled through the crowd. I stood frozen beside the podium, not having expected this public acknowledgement. Additionally, the president continued, Ms. Wilson is this year's winner of the National Collegiate Business Innovation Competition, bringing unprecedented recognition to our university's entrepreneurship program. The audience's applause grew stronger. I dared a glance toward my parents and saw their expressions shifting from confusion to shock. What many of you may not know, President Harlow went on, his voice carrying clearly through the silent auditorium, is that Ms. Wilson accomplished these extraordinary achievements while fully self-financing her education, working multiple jobs, building her business, and maintaining academic excellence without any family financial support. The revelation sent a visible ripple through the audience. Parents looked at each other with expressions ranging from disbelief to admiration. In recognition of her extraordinary journey, I am pleased to announce that Ms. Wilson has been offered a position with Alexander Global Consulting, one of the nation's premier business strategy firms. Furthermore, her entrepreneurial journey will be featured in next month's edition of Business Innovation magazine as their cover story on rising entrepreneurial talent. The audience erupted in a standing ovation. Through the thunderous applause, I watched as my parents' faces drained of color, their expressions morphing from shock to something approaching horror, as they realized everyone now knew they had refused to support the daughter being celebrated as the university's most outstanding graduate. As the applause finally quieted, President Harlow made one final announcement. In honor of Ms. Wilson's extraordinary example, the University Board has established the Emma Wilson Resilience Scholarship, providing financial assistance to students demonstrating exceptional determination in overcoming obstacles to their education. The symbolic victory was complete. Not only had I succeeded despite my parents' lack of faith, but my name would be permanently associated with supporting others facing similar challenges. As I returned to my seat amidst continued applause, Lily grabbed my hand and squeezed it tightly. "You are amazing," she whispered fiercely, "and they were so wrong about you." The remainder of the ceremony passed in a blur. When it concluded, graduates scattered to find their families among the dispersing crowd. I saw my parents standing awkwardly with Grandma Eleanor, their usual confident postures replaced by uncomfortable stiffness. Several professors and classmates stopped me to offer congratulations, delaying my approach to the family gathering. When I finally reached them, my father attempted a jovial tone that rang hollowly against the tension. "Well, this was quite a surprise," he said, his smile not reaching his eyes. "You've been holding out on us, Emma." The casual dismissal of all my hard work, as if I'd merely been keeping secrets rather than struggling while they ignored me, might once have devastated me. Now it barely registered. "Not at all," I replied coolly. "I've been exactly who I've always been. You just weren't paying attention." Before they could respond, Lily stepped forward and put her arm around my shoulders in a clear display of solidarity. "Everyone's talking about Emma's speech and accomplishments," she announced loudly enough for nearby families to hear. "Isn't it amazing how she managed to achieve all this without any support? I can't imagine how much more she could have done if she'd had the same advantages I did." Our mother flinched visibly at the public acknowledgement of their favoritism. Nearby, Uncle Jack and several other relatives watched the interaction with newly critical eyes. "Perhaps we should continue this conversation at home," Dad suggested tersely, clearly uncomfortable with the public scrutiny. "Actually," I replied, I have a celebration with my business team and mentors this afternoon. They've been my real support system these past 4 years, and I wouldn't miss it for anything. Grandma Eleanor stepped forward then, taking my hand in her gnarled one. I'm coming with you, she declared. I want to meet these wonderful people who recognized what your own parents couldn't see. The blunt statement hung in the air between us. For perhaps the first time, I saw genuine regret flash across my mother's face. We're very proud of you, of course, she attempted weakly. Thank you, I replied with dignified grace. But I've learned that external validation isn't necessary for success. Today isn't about gaining your approval. It's about celebrating the journey I made without it. Months later, as I settled into my new role at Alexander Global Consulting, I reflected on the journey that had brought me here. The girl who had once been told she wasn't worth investing in had become a successful entrepreneur, a celebrated graduate, and someone who could create opportunities for others. My relationship with my parents had slowly begun to heal, built now on mutual respect rather than the desperate need for approval that had once defined my every action. Lily and I had grown closer than ever, our bond strengthened by honesty rather than competition. She had chosen her own path in nonprofit work, inspired partly by witnessing the inequality I had faced. I keep thinking about how different our paths were, she told me during one of our weekly sister dinners, and how many other students face the obstacles you did, but without your exceptional drive to overcome them. The Emma Wilson Resilience Scholarship had already helped its first recipient, a young woman working 2 jobs while studying accounting and caring for her younger siblings. When I met her at the award ceremony, I saw my own determination reflected in her eyes. Sometimes, I told her, being underestimated becomes your greatest advantage. It forces you to build strength you never knew you had. Have you ever been underestimated by someone whose opinions seemed to define your worth? How did you find the strength to prove them wrong? Or more importantly, to prove your value to yourself? Share your story in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe if this journey of overcoming family expectations resonated with you. Remember, sometimes those who believe in you the least can motivate you the most, not to earn their approval, but to discover just how far beyond their limited vision you can truly soar.